I did not,
All right.
I saw it on news, 13 seconds to go in the game, and Palisades scored.
I didn't say not,
All right.
actually.
I saw it on news, 13 seconds to go in the game, and
Yeah, there you go. We're live.
Oh,
It's
boy.
indicative of that. And so just hit record and we're ready to go.
See it on your
I
phone.
can't find my record.
And the three buttons. Record, three buttons. Three little dots at the end.
Right,
Oh,
right, right.
more.
Down.
Record to this. Yep,
Record on this computer.
yep, you're good. Okay,
We on?
yes.
Sure.
Okay, welcome to the Northwestern Lehigh September regular board meeting. This is the first time the board or part of the board has met in person since March. So there may be a few bugs that we have to work through with this evening. So please bear with us. With that, would you please join me for opening exercises? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
United States to the republic.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And Mrs. Portinho, will you please call the roll?
John Cassiano,
Here.
Willard Delaker,
Here.
Joseph Batzinger,
Here.
Todd Hernandez,
Here.
Todd Leiser,
Here.
Alan Rex,
Here.
Rachel Scheffler, James Warfel.
Here.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is to approve the agenda that we have in front of us, and I don't believe there are any changes or additions. So the agenda is as posted, and I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Fattinger.
Motion by Mr. Fatzinger,
Second.
second by Mr. Leiser. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. We have an agenda. And at this time, we would offer courtesy of the floor for anyone who is tuned in with us this evening who would like to address the board at this time. Please raise your hand on your Zoom gadget, and Dr. Sosnovic will pipe you in. And there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting to just address the board.
Actually, you have to do it because it has to go over to house mic. Or I'll unmute them and then we'll see how it goes. So Mr. Delaker, we have a Laura Zemmel.
Laura Zemmel would like to address the board. Please begin stating your name and your address, please.
Laura Zemmel, 6940 Broadell Court, New Jersey. So my question is, we're doing this hybrid model, and for me, it is not working. My children are not learning. It is an absolute disaster. And I don't understand why we can have football where children are tackling each other to the ground, but our children cannot be learning in a classroom.
Do you want me to respond?
I don't know if that's a rhetorical question or not. Mrs. Zemmel will try to shed some light on this for you. Mrs. Hallman, can you go through the requirements that we have to follow through here to put us?
I understand the requirements that need to be followed. I just don't understand how children are okay to tackle each other on the ground to play football, but they're not okay to learn math and English sitting in a classroom. Because you're not learning math from these con videos that are completely confusing my fifth grader and not even covering the work that's being asked of her to do after the 3-minute video.
Well, I think, Mrs. Zemmel, we are doing the best we can under the requirements that we have to live under by the governor, and
So the governor's
I don't
okay.
know that we can equate the football and the athletics to the classroom setting, but because they're both different settings and both different rules that we have, that we are mandated to operate within. And I can assure you that the staff is doing the best they can with the restrictions that we have to live within.
But it makes zero sense that it's okay that children can tackle each other to the ground. Children are sitting in class, sanitizing constantly and learning most of their work from home. That they're not learning. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
I'm not sure I have an answer for you.
Well, when are these kids getting back to actual school and actual learning? Because quite frankly, they're being failed.
Well, as you may,
These videos are insane. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the videos because it's not explaining the work correctly. Then they're doing these things for the work, and then they're not getting passing grades, and then they have to redo it to get a passing grade on it. But she's not getting a passing grade because none of it makes any sense.
Mrs. Semmel, this is Mrs. Hellman. I would appreciate if you could, if you have not done so already, reach out to your building principal if you have. I'm not aware of your child's specific situation or the grades that your child is receiving. I can tell you as a whole, I've been in all of the buildings and in almost every single classroom. I'll report on this a little bit later, but our staff are adjusting to a new educational model, and what Mr. Delacour was referencing earlier are some of the requirements that we have in place by not only the governor, but the Department of Health, and about what mode of operation we can operate in given the spread of the virus in our county and in our area. And so we're continually evaluating that on a county level as well as our own zip code data to make decisions that are best for us. We need to be able to educate children, but do so in the safest manner possible. If there are specific issues involving your child's education they're receiving or the grades they're receiving, I would prefer to address those individually because I'm certainly not privy to that information.
I have addressed it with Mrs. Pooley, and she suggested that I come into the meeting today because my 5th grader is completely confused on her subjects. My 4th grader is not wanting to sit at a computer from 9 to 3 because it's ridiculous. She can't hear the teacher. Things are glitching. It's 3 children on computers at the same time. It's not working. And then my 1st grader gets maybe 40 minutes of work a day. I don't know what she's learning. And then they want minimal parent involvement, but I've been nothing but involved because nothing's working for them. I mean, have you guys looked at these Khan videos for math that they're doing? Because the Khan Academy is not working, in my opinion. It tells you in the order of operations how to do an order of operations. But then it's not telling you a multiplication symbol can not only be an X, but it can be a period. Her crystal ball is a little fuzzy. It's not working. She doesn't know that. She thinks multiplication is just that, a symbol as an X.
I don't know that we'll be able to address your specific examples that you were giving us. It's very good information to have, but we moved into this hybrid model because of the requirements that were put on us by the governor and the Department of Health. And those requirements, we chose to do the hybrid model, and will be using that hybrid model until the end of the marking period. During that time, before we get to the end of the marking period, we will be evaluating the status of the cases that we have here and the health situation at Northwestern Lehigh and all of this.
Addressing the status of the cases, addressing the age demographic.
If you're gonna overspeak me, we'll cut you off. We heard what you said, we understand your frustration, and we'll do the best we can to remedy that for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling. And please follow up with what Mrs. Holman suggested by talking to your children's principal. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board this evening?
No, sir, I do not see anyone else's hands.
Okay, thank you. And let's move on to the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes that we've been able to view from August 19th and from the September 2nd workshop. And I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve, Rex.
Motion by Mr. Rex,
Second, Hernandez.
second by Mr. Hernandez. Any comments or questions about the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. I do not have a president's report tonight, so let's move into the superintendent's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Delafair. I would like to give you a short report on how school has gone we are now in the middle of the third week. And so the first 2 weeks were full weeks. Today was actually the first asynchronous day. And so I was in a conference yesterday with PDE and many officials locally and statewide. And, you know, a lot of people talk about returning to school and the opening of school as being something during the summer that was viewed as an insurmountable challenge. And I think overall, you know, the option to have in-person learning is something that I think will be characterized as probably the most challenging school opening in hopefully all of our histories. And so we are open in a hybrid model and a blended model, which means that our students are here 2 days per week and learning online 3 days per week in 2 different cohorts. Our staff we're trying to manage, I'll say, the health crisis and the global pandemic, as well as get them back to some in-person learning. Certainly, we are aware of all the aforementioned things that, you know, certainly were mentioned in public comment about the challenges that we're all experiencing. They can be anything from, you know, technology issues to teachers planning and teaching a little bit differently. But after 2 weeks and beginning week 3, I believe the sessions that we've sat in on, and I think I visited every single building and probably almost every single classroom over the last couple weeks, they are engaging in meaningful social, emotional, and academic learning in all of our classrooms and doing a great job managing both groups simultaneously. So I think that's underestimated by folks that are not necessarily teachers, that there is a group of students in person and a group of students online and trying to manage both of those groups simultaneously. So since the beginning of the pandemic, we certainly received a lot of patience and compassion from our community, and we would continue to say, you know, it's week 3, and that might feel like at some points it's week 5 or week 8, but it is still, we are, I think, as of today, 10 days or 11 days in, and continue to ask for our families and our community to be compassionate and graceful that this is really 10 days of an entirely different teaching style, an entirely different learning style for our students. Our students have been great champs coming into the building, being compliant with all new social health and safety protocols that we've put into place to try to keep everyone safe. Our hope is obviously that those safety protocols will get us back to more in-person learning in an increased sense even faster. I sent all of you today, late this afternoon, PDE released a new report from Mathematica. If you recall, several weeks ago, Pennsylvania Department of Education commissioned Mathematica to produce a research-based report about the different models of school. They did so earlier in the summer and gave some suggestions in terms of what the research was initially saying about the reopening of school, the models, and how that affects the disease transmission. Late this afternoon, they did release another report. I honestly have not had the opportunity to read it entirely. It certainly goes through some of the instructional models, talks a little bit about the spread of the disease and how the instructional model has an impact on that in different settings, even down to differences between elementary and secondary. And so we'll certainly read through that and look through that to see if there's valuable information that we can apply to our setting here. We also, as Mr. Delacour mentioned earlier, continue to evaluate data from both Lehigh County and local data. On a Lehigh County sense, it gets updated every Friday, and it gives you both the percentage positivity rate as well as the incident rate per 100,000 people in the last 7 days, and gives you either a spread in your area of low, substantial, or low, moderate, or substantial. We have been since before school and continue to be in moderate, which is the middle one, not low and not substantial. We did understand the most recent is it's always hovering around in the 25, 26, 28s in terms of the incidence per 100,000 in the last 7 days in Lehigh County. We do also collect zip code data at a local level. Not all of the zip codes are obviously entirely ours. That's the lowest metric we can get to from the Department of Health and Public Reporting, as well as looking at that and applying that through the same metric. And so we look at that. That comes out daily by zip code. I will tell you that our staffing for substitutes, despite our very best efforts to do substitutes, we do have a number of positions that remain unfilled, and we have that continues to be a challenge for us even entering week 3. Our staff, as I said earlier, are working really hard balancing the online students and balancing the students in person in 3 different groups simultaneously. I visited with some of our classrooms today. And just recognizing it's really a learning curve. It's a learning curve for our families, it's a learning curve for our students, it's a learning curve for our teachers, and have complete confidence that, as we continue with weeks, we will get smoother, not only with the safety and health protocols, but also the teaching style and making that more authentic for our students. And so just ask for some compassion and grace as we navigate the new environment, and certainly I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mrs. Holman. Are there any questions for Mrs. Holman? Don?
I got 2 questions, I guess, kind of as we start to think about, I know we said we were gonna reevaluate in October the potential of, changing our current course or keeping, with the current plan. In preparation for that, I guess I have kind of two questions. One is, do we consider polling families, to ask if indeed we were to return to full in school, how many of them would want to return? Would they go all digital? Just to kind of gauge, if 30-40% of them decide they would want to be at home in a full digital environment, does that, potentially alter our decision on what we want to do? So that's kind of a question. And then the second part to that is, how do we gauge right now the staff time and workload that may, that's likely happening, from a teacher perspective? Are we burning them out? Are they, what do they need to be successful during this period, which is obviously in many cases probably stressing them beyond their normal back to school plans. So just kind of interested in those two things.
Well, to, I think, address one and answer one, yes, we can do that. That hasn't been what we've seen in terms of trend. So more students coming back has been primarily what we've seen. That doesn't mean that that decision hasn't changed or won't change. And so it's certainly good data. I would say that it's one data point because we had a high proportion of students and families that wanted to come back. And so, as I've said before, that's one data point because unfortunately it's not about just what families want and desire because of all the other metrics. One of them, and that is a significant one, is staffing. And so to address the second point, I would tell you that our staff are stretched. And so they would certainly, if they were here or in the audience, would be saying, we need more staff. We need more staff to take the totally online kids. They would say that we need staff to be able to split those groups of 3 pieces, that although they took the online kids as a second group, it's challenging with a kid you never see. And so that is at elementary a little easier in terms of the certification and their ability to teach across subjects. It is much more challenging at middle school and high school because you can't just hire one teacher that's able to teach a whole bunch of subjects, which was why originally we made the decision to, I'm going to call it co-roster students, which has exhibited challenges with our staff in terms of their ability, and not just by trying. It's just you have a group of kids that's here 2 days a week, you have a group of kids that's there the other 2 days a week, and then you have a group of kids online that you have had no relationship with, you have never been in your class before, doesn't know your practices, your protocol, you have no contact with them. So even the other students, they're able to say, you can't get on that, I'll see you on Tuesday. With that group, assessments is challenging, as well as problem solving with them because they don't ever see them. They never come in. And I will tell you that statewide assessments, when we get to that point, will equally be a potential problem of how do we do that with a group that's completely online. So yes, I wholeheartedly, think that they are stressed and they are trying to manage both groups. I have no doubt that they will give it the very best effort they can. But it's challenging. And I think the answer in some cases could be additional staff. It's where does that financial dollars come from when you're looking at numbers and like our online kids right now is close to 400 kids we would need to staff if you were choosing to operate that separately, I would say. I mean, you've been around, Dr. Susamek, you're welcome to add to that if there's more. You've been around as well.
Yeah, no, and I'm gonna say I strongly echo everything that Mrs. Holman said. The challenges that we are seeing is not lack of anyone's effort. We've taken a lot of the, let's say, operational barriers out of the way. It's the management of it in terms of the flow, the relationships, the structure, particularly with the 100% online kids when you get to a secondary level. My hat is off to each one of these teachers because they're making it happen in the best manner that they can. In terms of solutions, definitely, if we were going to go in that direction, staffing would have to be a consideration at some level, particularly at the elementary level, where we can, allow the online to operate similar to the K-2 model that we have now, where we have teachers dedicated to those online students. But again, we are running so lean in terms of our sections at elementary. Even if we would do that, unless we would add staff, it would be problematic in terms of class size. So, I think we need to continue to, be nimble, be open-minded in terms of solutions. We keep saying, asking our parents to be patient and kind. We are working through it, and be supportive of our teachers, and really keep an ear open and listen to them in terms of what their needs are and how we can make adjustments to, let's say, ease everybody's pain, because everybody's experiencing to some degree. Depending on the level, there's more than others. So.
I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, it does. I guess, I'm just thinking about the parent, obviously, who, is dealing with 3 young children at home, struggling with subject matter, and just, and also understanding that I'm sure it's very difficult to provide that one-on-one oversight. Maybe just a simple tutoring session that's needed there, I guess, but there's just literally no time in the day for anyone to kind of lean in and do that. Are there additional options? I'm sure every school is dealing with this, right? Additional tutoring support. Do we have, do we create a budget for a group of kids in the high school to potentially do, tutoring for younger kids? You're the professional, so you're not me, but, what are there other services we could be looking at with a few additional dollars? Because obviously substitutes are a problem. I don't know what's available nationally or at our local level.
Yeah, I mean, I talked with some staff today, and, I said there are some districts that are running the hybrid, I'll say identical to us, and some that are running it slightly different. And when I say that, I mean, we are running a synchronous option. So we are, on the days that students are not here, they have a blend of synchronous and asynchronous, live and not live, instruction that's provided to them on the days they're at home. We, in order to make the K-2 that Dr. Susamek mentioned earlier, we essentially pulled one of our 3 teachers out of MTSS to make that work, because we didn't have the budget certainly to hire additional teachers, and put an MTSS teacher in both cases in the classroom, and shifted one of the teachers that is in a grade level onto taking the entire roster of all the online kids. The reason we focused on K-2 is really the developmentally appropriateness of their independence and their ability to get online, their ability to, get on Zoom and do so independently, as well as the developmentally appropriateness of a kindergarten student sitting on a computer all day, which is a whole other conversation. And certainly that would be the group that we would focus on. Should we do some other districts have done phased returns, like, let's go K-3, let's go K-5 and done phased returns. Our elementary students, and I've told most of our faculty this would be our first focus of bringing them back in person for a whole host of reasons, and doing that in person. Substitutes continue to be an issue, and it's not for lack of our staff have reported. And so the issues that we're experiencing are, at this point, knock on wood, not even COVID related issues. for the most part. There are other staff leaves or absences that are requiring us to fill positions, some of which are filled by, long-term subs that we have, which is leaving a hole in the day-to-day sub of when someone's out. And so substitutes, despite our recruiting and despite, the survey, Luann did a survey earlier in the year to try to see how many of our substitutes would be interested, and despite the number of people that responded that they would be interested, it actually means the practicality of them picking up an assignment and being in a classroom, and that's a little different than their interest in continuing to stay on the sub list. And the methodology we utilized in the past to be able to combine classes is not conducive to the health crisis we're in. And so typically it would be combining classes or it would be covering classes. And so the coverage of classes does the same level of frustration when that teacher was supposed to have some time for a planning period to do the planning that we're asking them to do, and now they get pulled to do a substitute assignment. And so that's not helping in terms of, and it hasn't happened frequently this year, but it has happened a few times, and we haven't hit, I say the flu, what used to be called the flu season, and we haven't hit any particularly long COVID situations where people have been sick or been in quarantine, which will be an extended absence. To answer your question, Ingenious Solutions, we're running really thin. I mean, we go back, one of the Ingenious Solutions would have probably been to combine grade levels in the same building, because I know that was a topic that was not well thought of last year, but we probably would have been able to do a little bit more. If we had 6 sections of the same grade level in the same building, we would have been able to slide 1 section online and 5 in person. The problem that it creates, and I had a conversation with our staff today, one of our grade levels, is if we don't have the number of students selecting online, even cross buildings, that doesn't increase the numbers in the classrooms that are left to too high. And so, I'll give an example. We have 19 students online. If we shift them all to one teacher, that leaves 32 and 34 in the other 2 classrooms. And so we haven't found, I'll say, the sweet spot of the ability to slide. Some other bigger districts have been able to do that. And then still have reasonable class sizes in the sections that remain. The elementary principals and I talked today about some potential solutions for the areas that are the biggest challenges. So we're continuing to always evaluate what we can do differently, and there might be one of those changes coming, but we just base it on, we've never been through this before, so we're basing it on what experience we have and making adjustments to make it better.
Yeah, and I would just add too, we really couldn't wait for the teachers to come back, because they're going to be the ones that help us create these solutions, to help us think through these solutions. All the planning and efforts that we as an administrative team have done through the summer in preparation for students to come back, it isn't until when the rubber hits the road, we're actually in session and we are seeing how it's flowing, and the teachers could give us the feedback that we need, and we can listen to them and work together to come up with these solutions. So, we're down 2.5 weeks at this point. Today was our first Wednesday off, where I would say that they got a breather in between the 2 cohorts to kind of sit back, interface with their colleagues in person here to help brainstorm some of these solutions. And as we continue forward, we're really going to look to them to help guide us what they believe would be some appropriate things to put in place. And I'm hoping that, we could continue these conversations with them in the near future and start to, you'll hear more about some of the creative solutions. But from an administrative team, if we've done all the planning we can, we need to hear the feedback from the teachers at this point and the families to really truly figure out what our next step is.
Thank you. Any other board members have any comments before we move away from superintendent's report?
Just a little reinforcement, Mr. Deliker. I have quite a number of friends and family members who are currently in classrooms right now, and I just don't think those of us who are not directly online can come close to appreciating the challenges that they're meeting. It really is extraordinary, and they are putting in enormous amounts of time, mind-boggling amounts of time. So I don't know where the solutions lie. I know the administration is working equally as hard and equally as challenged. I just hope that the community understands that people are doing the very best job they can with overwhelming challenges. I don't think we can understate that. So I don't know what we as a board can do, but I certainly think we need to make ourselves available to stay close in touch, because it is a remarkably challenging circumstance, and I just want to wish everybody well. I think everybody's doing the best they can under these difficult circumstances.
Thank you, Dr. Baker.
I just feel the need to add one more thing. The tone right now is one, I would say, a gray cloud, that how we were just portraying everything that's going on. I could say I've gotten a tremendous amount of positive feedback from families out in the community about the job that we're doing and the level of education we are providing and our teachers are providing every day. And I have a lot of colleagues, friends that work for other districts, and they aren't even coming close to what we are doing here in Northwestern. And so I want to just end the superintendent's report on a positive note that, yes, we are seeing challenges. We'll work together, we'll get through them, but there's a lot of great things happening as well.
Thank you, Dr. Sisnova.
I was going to say something. I agree. We've received just as many positive emails, and in some cases comparisons, I'll say, to our colleagues about the education provided. So I can completely concur. The education, the synchronous instruction, the quality of these Zooms and the instruction, certainly Mrs. Demo, I think her name was, indicated some technology issues, but certainly getting on them. But our teachers are already available and equipped to do the very best they can, and they've done a great job. And in comparison to what we've heard, people who work in the corporate environment and workforce, in comparison to what some other people have experienced, they're doing a great job.
Thank you. I guess the bottom line is we're still in our startup mode from all of the planning that we have put in through this long summer, and with some of the new software and some of the new methods that we have to use under the mandates that we have to live within. We're still starting up, and for the parents like Mrs. Zemmel, who we heard from earlier, who are frustrated with some of the details in this delivery system that we have, please contact your building principal and try to talk to them about the specific difficulties that you're having, so they can be overcome as we work through this. And I speak for myself, and I think many of the board members and the staff, that we'd like to come back full time as soon as we possibly can. But the rules that we have to live within, which are pages and pages and pages, and keep changing as soon as we get set up, keep changing, and even coming back with all the distancing requirements that we have. As you can see in this boardroom this evening, we can't even see the full board around the table with the distancing requirements. So there's a lot of hurdles that we have to overcome before we can just flat out open up for full time. And we will continue to work through this. I think we've done made miraculous strides in overcoming the restrictions that we have to live within, and doing the job that is being done by the staff at this time. So thank you all. And I think with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is personnel action. Mrs. Matiko.
Thank you, Mr. Delaker. I'll start with the personnel action. There's 36 items tonight. I would like to call your attention to a few of them. The first is the retirement of Kim Corbin. Kim's been a part-time bus driver for the district for more than 19 years, and she's retiring, but she's going to stay on as a trainer, and we'll use her in an emergency situation. we will recognize Kim's service at our October meeting. Also, on page 2 is the recommendation to approve Matthew Gibler as our assistant high school principal. We are hoping that he can start within the next few weeks, and I believe Mrs. Yadish is online and will introduce Matt, and Matt will have a few words to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Matika. I am very excited to introduce Matt Gibler as our new assistant principal at the high school. He comes to us after most recently serving as the assistant principal at Deer High School. He's also served as a technology education teacher at Allen High School, as well as a social studies teacher in several schools in Las Vegas. Matt comes to us having had experience with a wide variety of initiatives, including serving on his district's comprehensive plan committee. He's written and received STEM grants for his technology students. He's served as a department chair and has organized and implemented a program for at-risk freshmen in some of his previous positions. Matt, as the rest of us have, has also started this school year in a virtual environment, and we're really looking forward to him bringing his technological expertise and ideas to our high school. So given all of that, what we're most excited about and proud of is that Matt is also technically returning to Northwestern Lehigh High School, as he is an NWL alumni. So please help me welcome Matt Gibler.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to Principal Yadish for that introduction. Esteemed members of the board, Superintendent Holman, Principal Yadish.
Who's there? Give me a second.
Esteemed members of the board, Superintendent Holman and Principal Yadish, and all the additional Northwestern Lehigh staff, faculty, and community members participating in tonight's board meeting. It is great to be here with you tonight. This has been such an amazing journey. 23 years ago, in fact, I decided to become an educator because of a teacher at Northwestern Lehigh Middle School, Mr. Michael Hayburn. Tonight, I'm saying thank you to him and every other educator, coach, mentor, and family member that has had an impact on me and my career in education. I look forward to the coming opportunities as your assistant principal, and once again, as a member of the Northwestern Lehigh community. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Matt. It's good to have you here, and we're looking forward to you joining us very soon. Moving on, I'd like to call your attention just to an unusual event, which is the hiring of 2 speech and language specialists within 10 days of each other. That's a bit of a celebration for us. One of them has already started, Ashley Kovach, and Alyssa Riley will be joining us shortly as soon as she's released from her job in Rhode Island. And on page 4 is 2 typos in line number 7 and 8. Thanks to Mrs. Stitzel, who just texted me to say that it should say Science Olympiad twice, with the stipend being split 50%. So I wanted the record to reflect that it should say Science Olympiad. And I do ask for your approval on these items this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Matika. And with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the personnel items on the agenda as you have listed before you.
Motion to approve the personnel item. Welcome, Matt.
Motion
Second,
by Dr.
Fattinger.
Fattinger, yeah.
Second by Mr. Fattinger. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those, hearing none, we will have to take a roll call vote, please, Ms. Cookman.
John Cassiano,
Aye.
Willard Delacour,
Aye.
Joseph Fattinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Todd Leiser,
Aye.
Alan Rex.
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler. Aye. James Morphle.
Aye.
Thank you very much. You're unanimous. And congratulations, Mr. Gibler. Matt, welcome aboard. Back to Tiger Country. And best wishes to you. We're glad to have you. I also want to mention that I was really sad when I saw Kim Boardman's resignation on the personnel agenda. and then relieved when I saw she was gonna at least stay as a trainer so that we can continue to use her skill and knowledge to train the new bus drivers as we hire more to replace our retirees who have given us such good service. So to Kim, congratulations on your retirement, but thanks for staying with us to train the new guys. I did have a question about the student teachers. Will they be doing student teaching in person
They are,
in the building?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And same with the nurse that we're going to talk about from Aspen.
That's
They're
correct.
still in the
Yes.
building. Okay. Thank you. Okay, with that, let's move to next item under personnel is the revised support staff rate sheet.
Yeah, I'll handle that quickly. This is just a minor correction with transpositions on numbers. The items are highlighted in yellow. The rate increase was not carried through on one, and there was a coding issue on the other one. The CDL substitute rate should have stayed the same. So this is a minor correction, and we do need your approval on the sheet revised as of September 16th.
Okay. Let's take this item and the next time, since we have to do roll call votes.
Very good.
Let's take this item and the next item together, please.
Okay, this is an agreement with Aspen University, which is at Denver, Colorado, for a practicum site agreement for a school nurse, a certified school nurse. She has completed her education part through Denver, Colorado University, Aspen University in Denver, but now needs to do the practicum, and she is a resident in our district. And it is a good opportunity for her here. This is our 14th agreement with colleges and universities. And I ask for your approval on this evening. It has been reviewed by King's Credit.
Okay, good. So I would entertain a motion for item 2.02, the revised support staff rate sheet, and 2.03, the Aspen University agreement.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rex,
Second.
second by Mr. Weiser. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
John Cassiano,
Aye.
Willard Delaker,
Aye.
Joseph Batzinger, Joseph Batzinger, Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Todd Leiser,
Yes.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
Aye.
James Warfel.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Matika. Now, moving into curriculum and building issues, we have the COVID mitigation equity grant that we discussed in the workshop. And again, because we're doing roll call votes, I'd like to take 3.01 and 4.01 together. That would be the mitigation equity grant and second reading and final approval of the policy this evening. Are there any changes to the policy?
No, sir.
Use of live stream video on school district property, no changes.
No, sir, no changes.
So we did vet both of those in our last workshop meeting, and I would entertain a motion to approve those two items.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Rex,
Second.
second by Mr. Hernandez. Any comments or questions on those two items? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
John Cassiano,
Yes.
Willard Delaker,
Yes.
Joseph Batzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Todd Leiser,
Yes.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
Aye.
James Warfel.
Yes.
Thank you, and motion carried. Next item, I believe, is a new item that we haven't discussed yet, and we have Leslie or Mrs. Holman.
I'm not familiar with the software upgrade.
No, oh, no, the next one, you skipped one, if you're talking about that one, the software updates next, the game time is the.
Yeah, software 5.01 is a software
Yep.
upgrade.
I will ask Mr. Oaks to address that. He briefly talked about it in the last meeting, the agenda wasn't attached. Mr. Oaks?
Thank you, Ms. Holman. This is our software that we use for our controls program. Essentially, we went with NRG North when we originally did our ESCO project for the buildings, and we have had it in the building since the ESCO project, and since 2018, it has not been upgraded. So we're a few versions behind. Works an awful lot similar to a cell phone, where you sometimes get updates, weekly, and sometimes it's once every couple months. Whenever there is a software push out that the manufacturer wants to use, it comes to the company that we use, NRG North, and then they log into our system, and they've maintained that login to our system since we've had the software, and they will update it. They do let us know when they do it, because when they perform an update, they have to do a Jace restart, which is the controls in the buildings. So we know that they're doing it. We also have a log that they've been in if they ever come in for service. So we maintain that relationship with them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oaks. Are there any comments or questions about the software upgrade before we get a motion on the table? I don't see any. So again, let's look at the 5.01. Next item on the agenda is 6.01, which is a new game time custom music solution, which Mrs. Frisbee will discuss. And then I'd like to take 602, 603, and 604 as a consent agenda for all of these items. So Leslie, can you talk about the new game time custom music solution?
Sure. This was an item that was added to the agenda earlier this week. We just received the invoice and the agreement. What this would do was create I'll call it like a district-wide software or radio station that we could use in sports venues and in our weight rooms, which basically pre-screens all of the music for any inappropriate language or content, and then would make sure that the database that we have access to is appropriate to be playing and streaming over a loudspeaker in a stadium and a weight room. It also comes with some other bells and whistles, sound effects, things that you're familiar with hearing in the stadium. So we did vet the terms and conditions. It did need board approval because it requires payment in advance and does have an auto renewal on it. You can see it per the board agenda item. We are proposing to pay for it out of the Tiger Concession Stand Fund.
Okay, any questions? Any questions for Leslie? Mr. Liza.
Sorry, I don't have a question for Leslie, but I am going to circle back to the other agreements since we're voting on them together. Question for Art. The agreement, I read it as 5 years from the date now forward, but the actual scope of work indicates that the software expired in June of 2018. So it'd be my preference not to pay them for over 2 years of expired software license. So my assumption is that this is going forward 5 years, but it's really not clear in the scope of this document when the effective date actually is and when the expired date of that 5 years software maintenance agreement is. Can you clarify that?
I did talk with them about that to try to get clarity. They just didn't get me the document, and I said the same thing. I'm not going to pay for 2 years previous and count that towards my 5. If I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy it going forward as the next 5 years. You update it to date as this first year, and then we have the next 4, so to speak. I can get that clarified in writing. I just haven't gotten it for this meeting, but that is the verbal understanding with NRG Controls.
So your verbal understanding is that it's 5 years from today?
That is correct. This year would be the first year, and then 4 additional years. Yes, sir.
If I may, there are many softwares that are very similar to that. One example that comes to mind is the software that we use to control all of our security cameras is exactly the same, where we actually elapsed the software license. We didn't feel the need to upgrade it at the time due to no new features or anything like that. And when we re-engage in the contract for that maintenance, when something comes out that we actually need, similar to what Art is working on, it's the start of the term that day forward. So when I read this, it reads similar to other contracts that we've had.
Are you comfortable with that, Mr. Lizer?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think when we move to approve this, we can, we should put in that if it doesn't turn out to be 5 years hence, that we can rescind that motion and take another vote.
Or just authorize us not to sign it until he receives that in writing.
Okay, and you would record that on the motion for number 5.01. Okay. All right, then moving on to 6.02 is the overnight band trip. I believe that was Disneyland that we vetted at the last workshop meeting. And this is just to get board approval for the band to do fundraising for a trip. And the go, no-go criteria will be set when it gets closer to the departure date for this trip.
Disney World.
Disney World.
We're not flying to California.
Right, Disney World, excuse me.
That's all right.
And the 6.03 are the reports that were vetted at the workshop meeting. Are there any updates to that?
Not unless there's any questions.
And 6.04 is payment of the bill. So I would entertain the motion to approve 5.01, 6.01, 2, 3, and 4.
Motion to approve with the modification as noted to 5.01 to the effective date of September 2020 to September 2005, as previously discussed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lizer.
I'll second that, Cassiano.
Second by Mr. Cassiano. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call vote, please.
John Cassiano,
Aye.
Willard Delaker,
Aye.
Joseph Batzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Todd Lizer,
Aye.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Shepler,
I need to abstain.
and James Warfel.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carried. And one final item under finance is the renewal of our CDs. And would you please explain this to the board, Mrs. Frisbee?
Sure. So we have 2 CDs coming due at the end of September, and based off of the published rates for CDs that are currently offered by New Chipotle Bank, as well as some discussions with our account rep at the bank, compared to what our current interest rate is on our sweep account, the recommendation would be to cash these CDs in, roll that money into our sweep account, and continue to evaluate the market for potential opportunity to tie that money up in a CD in the future. Right now, the published rate for a 5-year CD on New Chipotle Bank is 0.55%. Our current money market account as of the end of August is earning, or excuse me, our sweep account is earning 0.46%. So there's not a big differential to tie up or incentive to tie up those funds for a 5-year period of time. Right now, there's nothing close to that in terms of a 1 year and 18 month. Our current bank account is earning more than what a CD would offer. So just an update to the board that my recommendation would be to do that and not do anything with those CDs unless the board would wish to do something different.
Thank you, Mrs. Frisbee. There is no action required on this item, but this is information only, and so we're looking for a head nod to see if there are any objections to proceeding as Mrs. Frisbee decided.
No, I think it's a good move. Park the money in cash and hope that the CD rates go up at some point.
Yeah, we'll continue to monitor that, and we have an open communication with the bank. So if there's some kind of special promotion they would offer, they will be in touch with us. And like I said, so if there's an opportunity, we'll certainly act on that and bring that to the board. But right now, it doesn't look very promising.
Well, then how many CDs will be left? Because I'm looking at the treasurer's report, it looked like they all came this year.
We have several these were the 5-year ones. We don't have anything long-term held up. So over the course of this year, we will have additional CDs coming due. So we'll have to make a decision at that point in time, what the market looks like at that time. The 2 that are coming due in September, you can see are the largest, the 10 and the 5 million.
Yeah, then the other one said they were matured in April of 20, February of 20, and May of 20.
Yeah, and those I need to remove off of the report.
Also, those have already been moved into that super account. So the only one that'll remain then is the 1,721,000 July.
I think there's a couple of them that are out there.
Yeah, those are the only ones listed on the treasurer's report.
Yeah, so we have the $1 million coming due 7/3 of 21. And we do have another one that is a 21 maturity date. I needed to update the date. We didn't roll the date forward.
Okay, any other questions for board members about the CDs? Then you got your head nod to keep going the way you described. Thank you. Moving on to other reports, 7.01 is our enrollment report, and I asked Mrs. Holman if she'd just address a couple of items on that report that I think are interesting to see.
So the enrollment report we looked at very closely this year for a few different reasons. One is certainly our number 2 cyber and charter schools, given that there might be some comfortable families that were uncomfortable with returning to school. So I do want to note that the cyber charter school enrollment from June to December is 116 to 115. So we stayed pretty steady. They're not the same group of kids, but certainly in and out it's about the same. We did have an increase in homeschool, which essentially means those are the parents that made a choice to homeschool their own children. It's a program provided by the state, which Mrs. Stitzel monitors in-house. It involves a parent offering their own education and goals and objectives. They have to send them into the school district, and then at the end of the year have to provide proof of the education and a portfolio as well as an assessment. Our non-public number, I would tell you, has the potential to not be accurate. And I tell you that because they report that to us beginning of October. And so we roll in September, typically the number, and then update it in October. So I can't tell you that the number in non-public is exactly the same until we get those back. We pull some of that from transportation, but not all non-public students that attend non-public do receive transportation from us. So I will get you an updated number as soon as we get those reports back. Mrs. Partinio sends that out from my office and gets a number from each of the schools for non-public. So just don't consider that certainly that number. You also asked at last board meeting the breakdown by school, and I do have that broken down by school as well as the digital academy numbers by school. Northwestern Elementary has 310 students in person and 85 students online. We did a separate report just to not add 2 more columns on the sheet. Weisenberg Elementary has 316 students in person and 61 students online. Middle school has 409 students in person and 84 students online. And the high school has 559 students in person and 147 students online. And you see our digital academy number has increased to 43, 6 at Northwestern Elementary, 2 at Weisenberg, 15 at middle school, and 20 at the high school is the breakdown there. You had previously asked for kind of the breakdown across buildings. We pulled that off the enrollment report, and we certainly will continue to monitor the breakdown. That is something we did ask for families to commit for the first marking period, just so we didn't have a lot of movement in and out. Certainly, if we make a decision to bring students back, or we end up in a situation where we end up closing and moving remote, obviously those are all situations that could change in the future. But if you have any questions, certainly, we did obviously look at this enrollment report pretty carefully just because of the number of switches, and we were not really sure anticipating how the numbers would fall in September. Like I said, the only one I would ask you to hold until next month is the non-public, which is your parochial school number. We will get that to you by the beginning of October. They get us the enrollments. Does anyone have any questions about the enrollment report?
Okay, no, thank you.
It's always interesting to see just decline.
Yeah.
The lowest we've had in 20 years.
Yeah, a question Mr. Delker actually asked on the before the meeting was, if you add up he always kind of looks at, do they flow into different groups? And so what I would say is if you look at the numbers that were 20 years ago, there were no homeschools, no non-pubs, or we didn't collect it. I think for non-pubs, we didn't collect it up to a certain point because you don't just start with 223 kids. But if you add the 2029 and you add the 115, 83, and 134 to get, I would say, what potentially could be our enrollment, it's 2361. Now, obviously, we only have 2029 of those. And you could do the same thing for any other given year to try that. So I think we at one point talked about, do we sum the last column, because the flow between those last three columns, depending upon the year, has an impact. And this year with the number of homeschool students is one of those years where you see the number go down, but they're in a different column educated by someone else. I do think that the one takeaway is we have close to 400 students, as I mentioned earlier, in our online. All the aforementioned benefits and challenges associated with that, I think is what truly led to us not losing students to cyber and charter schools. And so I do think that the efforts that we're putting in and the education our children are providing, I would say hands down will beat any cyber charter school that they could have enrolled in any case, in any grade level. And so we obviously, for financial as well as education reasons, prefer to keep them here. And I do think that our offering of online, although we might need to make some tweaks to make it a little more manageable, is probably the sole reason why we didn't lose any additional children in cyber and charter school. And there we did, I shouldn't say didn't lose any. There's a few we lost, a few we got back, but it ends up net even about.
Okay, any other questions about the enrollment report before we move on? Foundation report is next on the agenda. Mrs. Stitzel, is there anything to report from the foundation?
Yes, I have two items tonight. The foundation is ready to roll out their annual giving campaign to the school district staff. This does allow the employees of the districts to make a tax deductible contribution through payroll deductions. And the employees who donate have a chance to win the personal day and receive a t-shirt. And this has been going on now for the last 2 years. So this will be our third year of offering that to our employees as well. In addition to that, we have another fundraiser coming up, and that is the clay shoot, which will be Sunday, October 25th at the Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays. So make sure that you register through the link on their website. And that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Stitzel. Next is for committee reports from the IU, Dr. Warfel.
We have not met since my last report. We meet on this upcoming Monday evening.
Thank you, Doc. And I'd like to mention we have minutes in the agenda for the IU, LCTI, and LFIC. But how about under LCTI, anything to report this evening, Mr. Rex?
Oh, we did have a meeting, and it was a Zoom meeting. Our next meeting will also be a Zoom next week. The kickoff is started, so we'll get a little monitoring and hopefully get a better firm grip of what's going on down there. But it's a challenge.
You did say some of the courses are adapting and changing.
Yeah, looking at some different curriculum to be more remote. Like I was saying, one of the classes was to teach the students how to run a business if they would go into business. So if they were going to be a plumbing contractor or HVAC contractor, not only the work that has to happen to do the job, but the billing and the tracking of the information to run the business on the other side. So interesting stuff, yes.
Okay, Rec Commission.
I'm going to defer this to the other Todd. I was not able to attend.
Nothing major. Obviously, we would have normally had Night in the Country, but that was not in the agenda for this year. There was one thing that came up that does, there was mention of the school board. We were joined at the meeting by the group that's trying to get the pool project moving. They did get their 501c3 approval and documentation. They're sort of seeking support from the local community to to move forward with fundraising a significant amount of money. They asked me whether or not the school was, or what the school board or the school's opinion of the project was. I didn't offer one because we've never discussed it. So I asked if they, if they're looking for guidance from us at some point, they should certainly come to a board meeting and talk to us. That was all.
Good, thank you. And moving on, the next item under old business is, unfortunately, we have a board vacancy with the departure of Mrs. Krasinski. Marcy has moved out of the district, and we need to replace her, and there are all kinds of rules and regulations that govern the replacement and how long we can go without a replacement. And I think we're set up to take action this evening for accepting Marcy's resignation. And then the clock starts ticking for us to have a replacement within 30 days as required by the school code. And we will then advertise and take letters of interest and resumes for anybody that would like to take the appointment. So first on the agenda, first thing we need to do is take action to approve Marcy's resignation. And I would entertain a motion to do that.
I move to accept her resignation.
A motion by Mr. Rex,
Second, Mr. Fatzinger.
second by Mr. Fatzinger. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Oh, let's take a roll call vote, please.
John Cassiano,
Aye.
Willard Delaker,
Aye.
Joseph Batzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Todd Weiser,
Aye.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
Aye.
James Warfel.
Aye.
Motion is approved, I'm sure with regret, and we wish Marcy the best wishes in her future. Now, could we just reiterate real quickly what any interested candidate would have to do to apply for the vacancy?
Sure. So with the resignation, this also gives us permission to advertise in the newspaper. Mrs. Parchinio has that planned to go in the newspaper starting tomorrow. It will also be placed on the board page that will give certainly the legal script of what needs to be submitted. It is a letter of application, which includes your resume as well as your address and contact information, and a statement of your intent to why you would like to join the school board. They are accepting those entering September 30th at 4 p.m., I believe.
Correct.
Until September 30th at 4 p.m. And we do tentatively right now, we will get those to you after that date. So you can take a look at the resumes and information that they submitted, as well as tentatively have, and you will see this later in your announcements scheduled. This is also in the newspaper advertisement. They had to advertise when we were doing the interviews, and that is that October 7th date that you will see later on your agenda, beginning at 5 p.m. Depending upon how many candidates we have, depends on how long that will take. You will need to then do an appointment that evening, which is the regular workshop. So you won't have action on other items except for that appointment. So on the October 7th meeting at 7 p.m., you will have a workshop meeting, which will be the regular vetting of all the items for October, as well as the action item associated with appointment of a new board member. And they serve until December 2021, which is also in the advertisement.
Okay, are there any comments or questions about that process? Mrs. Holman and I talked about this, and I think that when we will be getting the letters of interest and the resumes to us September 30th. So we'll have a week to look over those applicants and then have the interviews on the 7th, and we'll take action that same evening. I think that gives us ample time to review the applicants' resumes and then do the interview with both. Okay. Any comments or questions on the process? Then let's move to the next item under new business. And we did discuss this at the workshop, and this is to cast a ballot to elect the officers for PSBA. And they are listed in your agenda as the president-elect, David Hine from Parkland School District. Vice President is Sabrina Backer from the Franklin Area School District. And I believe that's the only one that had more than one candidate. So Sabrina is the one that the board chose. And treasurer is Michael Gossett from Cumberland Valley School District. Then we have an at-large, Western at-large, Marcia Pieta, and 2 trustees, Michael Feciento from Bethlehem, and Mary Ann Neef, who is past president. And the Forum Steering Committee, which is Stephen Starocki and Tracy Long. So that is the ballot, and we need to take action to approve that ballot, and that will be forwarded to PSBA. So I would entertain a motion to approve that ballot.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Ricks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hernandez. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, let's have a roll call vote, please.
John Cassiano,
Aye.
Willard Delaker,
Aye.
Joseph Batzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Todd Leiser,
Aye.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
Aye.
James Warfel.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carried. And the next item on the agenda is to approve Mr. Cassiano and Mr. Fatzinger to represent us once again as a voting delegate at the annual delegate assembly, which is a virtual meeting this year on November 7th. And this was vetted at the workshop. And I think Mr. Fatzinger, because you weren't there, you got appointed to this again. You did such a great job last time. So
Thanks.
I would entertain a motion for to approve that John Cassiano and Joseph Fatzinger.
Motion Leiser.
Motion by Mr. Leiser,
Second.
second by Mr. Hernandez. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Sure, just one thing, I believe it may be in person, not virtual. The delegates. Yes,
Okay,
unlike the school board conference is virtual, this is.
Okay, I have a correction, John and Joe. Continue believes that this is an in-person voting delegate meeting. The conference will be virtual, but the voting will be in person at Hershey.
No, we had emailed the information.
Yeah, I can look that up.
Okay.
It's not I want to say Cumberland Valley School District.
Yeah,
Let me look that up.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. And roll call vote, please.
John Cassiano,
Aye.
Willard Delaker,
Aye.
Joseph Batzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Todd Leiser,
Aye.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
Aye.
James Warfel.
Aye.
It's always hard to vote for yourself, isn't it?
Cumberland Valley School District, gentlemen.
Cumberland Valley School District.
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is once again offering courtesy of the floor to anyone who is listening and would like to address the board. Please raise your hand on your Zoom screen and you will be piped into the meeting. And please begin with your name and your address.
I do not see anyone, Mr. Delaker.
Okay, it's reported that there is no one.
There is one.
Oh, there is one. There is one person who would like to address the board.
Miss Michelle Baker, you have the floor if you unmute.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Michelle Baker, Silver Creek Court, Kutztown. I wanted to start by saying I think it's great to see the board meeting in person. And great job to the administration to getting the kids back to school. I'm not thrilled with the hybrid. I would prefer 5 days in school, but I understand you're doing the best with the guidelines. After the first Wednesday, my opinion on asynchronous Wednesday is it's not ideal. I'd prefer the students in some sort of Zoom online classroom, but I understand the administration's doing what they can. I would like to understand what the plan is for the second quarter. When are we going to get the kids back into school full time? Yeah, that's my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Mrs. Baker. The second quarter, we have started to already evaluate, and we will certainly continue to evaluate. I would say that similar to what we did during the summer, we sort of have 3 plans simultaneously going and ready to enact any of them at any point we need. Our goal is, and I think personally, the administration, as well as our teaching staff, as well as the school board, believes that in-person learning is the best option for all of our kids. I think that we need to figure out in terms of safety and numbers, can we do that safely, and at what point can we do that safely? I mentioned earlier that I think one of our first phase moves would be younger children. I know that your children are not in the elementary school, if I recall correctly, and so that would certainly be the first students we would work to move back. I would say also, because I see some of the experiences our neighboring school districts are seeing with COVID, that equally could be a closure and going in the opposite direction. So there are districts in the area that are having diagnoses, and if you participated in the board meeting, I believe it was a month or so ago, there were some metrics that were put out by the Department of Health about closing after so many diagnoses. And there was a school locally that was closed today for a week. And so I can't tell you that at some point between now and the best laid plans for the second marking period, that we also wouldn't be there in terms of closing. I hope that our mitigation efforts and our safety guidelines prevent that from happening, but I also am realistic to realize that we're not immune to having a case or two. Our hope is that we would be able to contain any case with that particular individual, and it wouldn't inhibit our ability to continue in-person learning. We have plans, as you recall from the summer, we have all of the plans to return to traditional that we had ready to enact up until the August 10th or August 11th guidance came out that gave different recommendations. And so, although any of those options would be a shift, I think we have all 3 plans, I'd say ready to go, but very close to ready to go, that we can enact them at any time. That I think is the short answer. It doesn't answer your question definitively, but I don't know at 3 weeks into school that I can adequately do that.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
I think as Mrs. Holman just suggested, that it's up to all of us to keep this building open. All kids, all parents, we all have to make sure that we don't spread anything that we might pick up from outside of the school and bring back to the school, because that will shut us down. So thank you. Thank you for being with us tonight, Mrs. Baker. Is there anyone else, Dr. Cisnelli?
I do not see anyone.
Okay, nobody else is in the queue. So let's move to communications. Mr. Cassiano, do you have anything that you'd like to present to the board?
Not at this time.
And let's move into administrative and building sharing. You want to run through that, Doc?
Keep myself muted, Janine, so I don't get any feedback on it, okay? Because you have to repeat it. But, bottom. Maria Poli.
Just thank you to teachers for all of their hard work. It definitely has been challenging, but we are continuing to persevere.
Ms. Stitzel?
Just a welcome to Matt Givler. So we're happy to have you on our team and good luck.
Chief?
Just welcome to Matt. I look forward to working with him, and that's all I have.
Ms. Burlett?
I just want to publicly thank the staff for all of their hard work as we opened. It's great to have the students in the building. And as Mrs. Pulley said, it's been a challenge, but we will continue to persevere.
Mr. Zimmerman?
All right, yes, I just want to take this opportunity to pass on a message from our student athletes, our coaches, our marching band members, and their directors. They're just very, very thankful that this board supported the return to sport plan. And so far, so good, knock on wood. They've been doing it safely, and they've been competing lately. And again, they just asked me to please thank those that are responsible for supporting that. So again, to everybody on the school board, to the administration who support that, thank you very much. And again, welcome to Matt. Besides Aileen, I might be the second guy that is very thrilled to see him get on board. So Matt, can't wait to get you here and look forward to working with you. I realize that I am getting very, very old. As Matt was one of my student athletes early on in my career. So, thank you.
Mr. Oakes?
Just a welcome to Matt. Look forward to finally meeting you and working with you, and nothing further. Thank you.
Ms. Edmonds?
Again, welcome to Matt. Nothing further.
Ms. Stauffenberg?
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Sosnovic. Matt, welcome to our Tiger family and good luck to you when you start here at the high school. Just want to echo my colleagues' comments. Our staff has done a tremendous job. Dr. Werfel said it perfectly that they have a tremendous amount of time. They've been working hard, overwhelming challenges, but also we've gotten a lot of positive feedback also from our community and our parents. So we're happy about that. And also our students are doing an excellent job. They've been awesome when they're in the building, following all the guidelines. So I want to make sure I recognize our students and also to my colleagues, my administrative colleagues also for working together and getting through this together. So thank you.
Ms. Yadish?
I too will echo what my colleagues have shared. In going last, they've all said much of what I would have said as well, but a huge thank you to our teachers and staff who have done an amazing job getting these kids back into the building. And while I understand it might be frustrating from the home side, please know that we continue to work out all of the little details and fine tuning that we need to do. I agree with Mrs. Stauffenberg. Our students have done an amazing job as well. It may look a little bit different in the building, but they've really done an awesome job stepping up and making it work. So thank you to them. And certainly a thank you for approving Matt tonight. And we look forward to bringing him to the high school very soon. Thanks.
Leslie?
Nothing. Thank you.
Mrs. Matika?
Yeah, just a big thank you to both the support staff and the professional staff for their ongoing commitment to the students. It's obvious when you look at the parking lot, you see what's going on. So a big thank you to them. And a big welcome to Matt. We're looking forward to him getting here very soon.
I think that brings it to me. Welcome, Matt. I truly look forward to working with you. To the students, teachers, and staff, I continue to be proud of your resiliency and grit under the conditions we are under. I'm confident that we're going to pull through this together. I just ask to please focus on and celebrate the small wins that you make every day. Remember, success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. We got it.
I would not end on a better note, so I'll let you end. I would not end on a better note, so I concur. We said together we got this, and so I can't say it better. I think that's a good place to end.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, administrators. And let's move around the table with the traditional seating that we had 6 months ago, and begin with Mr. Hernandez.
Just to reiterate, I'd like to thank all the staff of the district and administration for all your efforts and hard work. Good job so far. Keep it up. And welcome, Matt, and good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rex.
Yes, I'd like to, it takes a lot of people to make the operation happen here, from the bus drivers to the janitorial staff to support staff, all the way down the ladder to administration. So thank you to everyone.
Brave new world. Mrs. Scheffler.
Yes, welcome, Matt. I'm glad to see a Northwestern grad come back to Northwestern. So we're excited to get you on board, and I'll be looking forward to meeting you in person. And I'm just happy that the kiddos are back to school, at least partial, and I hope that we can get them full-time coming soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Weiser.
Yeah, I would echo what Mr. Scheffler just said. Yeah, it's great to see the community in motion, the kids, while not full-time, great to see some of them back in action, back in the school, in the classroom. Certainly there's a lot of districts around us that can't say the same, that you've got kids full-time sitting at home in front of computers. So, we're part of the way there. Look forward to the time when we can, get them all back in there full-time. But certainly appreciate all of the effort of the administration and the teachers who have, done a tremendous amount of extra effort here to get us in motion for the year, and thankful for them for sure.
Thank you, Todd. Dr. Warfel.
I'm sorry. Again, I would just like to express my appreciation to the staff and the faculty for the incredible job they're doing. Be gentle with yourselves. Mr. Givler, I'm looking forward to meeting the adult version of someone I last knew as a 13-year-old in 8th grade. So we'll compare notes, Matt.
That's neat. Thank you, Doc. Mr. Cassiano.
Yes, I just want to congratulate Matt and welcome to the district once again. And I just shout out to all the teachers and staff for getting our kids back to school, and or at least part-time, but it's better than nothing. And we're working our way towards in a positive direction.
Thank you, Mr. Cassiano. Mr. Fatsinger.
Welcome, Matt, and nothing further.
Thank you, Joe. And Attorney Moyer.
I have nothing, Mr. Delegator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And this time we will announce the upcoming meetings. October 7th, we will have interviews for the school board vacancy appointment, and that will be virtual. And the workshop will be October 7th immediately following that interview session. And then we will have a executive session for personnel on October 7th, all virtual. Then on October 21st, we will have our regular board meeting again, and that will also be virtual. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Rex, second by Mr. Weiser. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for attending this evening.
Very well.